There are too many soapy rumours out there in the world explaining why Riker has a beard for Series 2 of The Next Generation. I'm going to put those rumours to bed and give you the real reasons that Riker actually now has a beard from Star Trek Next Generation Series 2. Here's why. Riker actor, Deanna Troi actor, and Will Wheaton actor had a bet, the loser of which had to get their face tattooed with a warping Enterprise image. The loser of the bet was Jonathan Frakes, who got the amazing starship tattooed on his chin for all to see. He thought it would show the rest of the production team how committed he was, and would also look good on the screen as part of a committed Star Trek commander, but unfortunately Rick Berman demanded that Frakes grow a beard in time for filming to conceal the ungodly image, as he called it. So in the 3 months between filming, Jonathan Frakes was pressured to stop shaving, and he returned to work for Series 2 with a big boy beard, which would also help him to gain roles in TV movie productions as both a pirate and as a beard salesman.
Why are you so alarmed when I've gone to such trouble to look just like you?
The distant cousin of an actor, Jonathan Frakes, was born with a number of birthmarks, most crucially one on his face and one on his soft bum. Rick Berman is rumoured to have become irritated at having to look at the small birthmark on Riker's face, and so he needed to tell Frakes to grow a damn beard. As he wasn't very brave, he possibly instructed one of the studio's security guards to hold Riker actor against the wall and threaten him, possibly pointing a finger and raising his voice and fist. Nowadays, no one is sure which wall it was that it was used to hold him up against, but I'm certain that any Star Trek fan worth their salt would like to brush their fingers along that sweet wall's textures and imagine the foolhardy situation that might have happened there.
You're wasting your breath, Lieutenant. Saying that to Data is asking a computer not to compute.
If this episode highlights anything to Star Trek's fans, it's that Riker had foregone an important change. If you look at the character in Season 1, you'd notice that he's chin bald, but here in Series 2, he has a beard. That's because after filming Season 1, he went camping with his cousin, Michael Dorn. They drank under a pale moonlight and fell asleep under the stars. While asleep, a snail had made its journey onto Jonathan Frakes' face. Minutes later, he awoke in acute pain and was rushed to hospital. It was discovered that he'd suffered an allergic reaction to mollusks, which is easily treatable with a special balm, but he had a long red mark on his chin where the snail had been, a mark that the doctor said would take up to a year to fade away. Upon speaking to Rick Berman, they decided together that the only way to proceed for Series 2 was for him to grow a big boy beard to cover it up. Did you take the time to look at William Riker and notice something was different about him from Series 1? That's because in Series 2 he has a big boy beard. During the first series, Gene Roddenberry told Patrick Stewart that he wanted Picard to have a beard to make him look maybe more thought-provoking, but due to a tragic skin condition, Patrick was unable to sprout facial hair. In a bid to make Gene like him more, Rick Berman allegedly went to Riker actor and told him to grow a beard as a nice surprise for Gene. When production meetings for Series 2 began and Gene saw Frakes enter the office with a beard, he began to weep, sobbing quietly and smiling as he poured himself a neat coffee. Did you ever notice upon close inspection that William Riker in Series 2 has a beard, but in Series 1 his face was as fresh as a spinning owl? That's because during the filming of Season 1, Jonathan Frakes found that women were attracted to his smooth face and would constantly find reasons to touch his cheeks with their hands and lips. Most men would be flattered, but when each woman would touch his face several times a day, he decided that enough was enough. The next step was to get the writer's permission to write scripts for a bearded Riker for Series 2 and not a smooth-faced Riker. At first, the writers found it quite a challenge to write dialogue for a bearded Riker, but they soon got accustomed to it, like penguins standing on a plate.
Perhaps his greatest flaw was that he was too selfless. He cared too much.
In the opening scene of the episode, we see Data experimenting with his look. He calls LaForge and Troy to his room, where he shows them that he now has an experimental beard. You're probably wondering where this idea came from. While writing the episode, writer Hans Beimler was inspired by the hunky big boy look that Riker had achieved. If you look closely, you'll notice that Riker now has a beard, unlike his character in Season 1. When Season 1 came to an end, Riker actress Jonathan Frakes had come to understand that everybody looked to him for inspiration, like the father figure of the team. In a hope that he could inspire change amongst his colleagues, he decided to grow a beard, an inspiration that writer Hans Beimler took comfort in and made it come to life for the Data robot in the episode The Schizoid Man. Notice how Riker looks remarkably different in Series 2 than in Series 1. The change is so startling that many people claimed that it's actually a different actor, claiming that a smooth-faced lad played Riker in Series 1, but for Series 2 they discovered a new hunky lookalike. What actually happened was that in Series 1 he was without a beard, but after a long summer break in the wilds of Montana at his brother's forest lodge, he returned 2 months later with a rugged mountainside beard. At first, Worth actor refused to believe that it was the same man, but once he started talking, Michael Dorn admitted that it must be true that Jonathan Frakes has grown a beard whilst living out in the wilderness. Star Trek's infamous makeup supervisor and designer, Michael Westmore, is infamous for his work in Star Trek. Eagle-eyed fans note that the breakout period in his career was during Star Trek Next Generation Season 2. The latex textures on aliens' faces have been smoothed out beyond reason. The realistic teeth of ghastly alien creatures was vastly superior to those that came before, and the hair lovingly created on Star Trek characters' heads was so seamless and realistic that he won first place at the 1988 Follicle Awards. Challenged to put his skills to the test, Michael Westmore took on his greatest challenge yet, to implant seemingly real hair where it had never been and didn't belong. He decided that giving the usually smooth-faced Commander Riker a rugged man's beard, one that fans would not realize was even false, would be the true test of his hairy skills. During Season 2, William Riker sports a hair wig on his chin, a follicle forest, which would not be needed for Series 3, as Frakes would finally decide to grow one for real. Can you even tell the difference? Oh, and Michael Westmore was nominated for an Emmy for this episode.
Yes, sir.
That's a wonderful method of maintaining a constant control factor over defensive shields, but I'm sure...
Between the filming and production of Season 1 and Season 2, the actors of Star Trek enjoyed a month at home, having Christmas with their families. One possibly well-documented accident happened during this time. On Christmas Eve, as Riker actor was having a hot chocolate drink when he spilled it down his chin and down all his clothes. After changing his clothes, his family pointed out that he had a horrifically burned chin, and with Star Trek coming back to the screen within months, he had an idea. Luckily, Frakes was able to grow hair rather speedily, so within just a few wild weeks, he returned to the studio for Season 2 with a well-formed beard, completely concealing the hot chocolate burn. Initially, Rick Berman told him to stay away with that beard on his face, but soon changed his mind when he got nostalgic for his own bearded father. It was this episode famously exhibits the Star Trek debut of famous actress Mädchen Amick. This was her very first on-screen role before she became a household name for her role as Shelley Johnson in Twin Peaks. Rumours persist that she was actually the real-life girlfriend of the William Riker actor. One thing of note here is that she was partial to a man with a beard. When she began dating the actor after the end of Star Trek Next Generation Season 1, she insisted to him that she was only going to continue the relationship if he grows a big boy beard. He happily relinquished his fresh, smooth face and grew the beard that she desired so much. That's why, if you look closely, that Riker in Season 1 has no beard, and yet in Season 2 he has a beard, covering his chin and face sides. Yeah.
Jordy, you alright? Destroy the probe, sir, quickly!
Now, if you were to ask anyone in the 1980s who the most toughest man was, they'd say either Sylvester Stallone or surely Jeff Capes. Not only was Jeff Capes a champion of shot putting, he was also the winner of the world's strongest man in both 1983 and 1985. The world watched on as Jeff Capes flexed his muscles, including a young Jonathan Frakes. The defining characteristics of Jeff Capes was that he had big fat muscles, and also he had a rugged beard which grew right on his face, the same way a herring might grow on an octopus. By 1988, Frakes had no chance at replicating Jeff Capes' round muscles, but he was able to try and replicate the beard, a look that he would cultivate and build on as the years went by. That's why, if you watch Star Trek Season 1, Next Generation, and look closely at William Riker, he has no beard. But do you see the difference in Season 2? In Season 2, he has a beard, a pale imitation of Jeff Capes' strongman beard, but a beard nonetheless.
Thank you ever so much for watching my very good video. Don't forget to subscribe to the Very Good channel and come back next week for another very good video. A video to watch. Now, it's a good video.